Welcome to the FDA QRC International Focus. This session is being provided as a recorded learning. You may request a certificate of completion using the instructions located on the last slide. We are pleased to provide technical content to the industry, and should you have any questions, please reach out using the contact information provided at the end. I'm Randall Morris and have more than 20 years experience working in clinical care, clinical research, conducting inspections, audits, and regulatory affairs. I have worked as a clinical nurse, clinical research nurse coordinator, clinical research nurse, FDA investigator, and FDA compliance officer, and my experience includes conducting many FDA investigator site audits and review of numerous cases as a compliance officer. I began working with FDA QRC in October of 2019 as an auditor after working as a compliance officer with the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. I earned my Master's of Science in Nursing Clinical Research Management from Duke University in 2012. In this session, you'll hear about the global changes that occurred in 2019. We're going to cover a brief overview of FDA foreign inspections, some FDA foreign observations, China FDA updates, Canada's pre-market requirements for medical device cybersecurity, the German Health Authority, Health Canada, and the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, MHRA. FDA Foreign Inspections Overview. The International Inspection Program began in 1955 with the inspection and certification of certain antibiotic firms in Europe. The regulations covering antibiotics required certification of each batch of antibiotics, both domestic and foreign. This made it necessary to review the foreign firms' documentation, methods, and controls on site. In the early 1970s, the agency began to conduct inspections of foreign prescription and bulk drug manufacturers identified in NDA and ANDA submissions. As a result of the 1976 Medical Device Amendment to the FD&C Act, foreign medical device and diagnostic manufacturers were also included in the International Inspection Program. The first international medical device inspection was conducted in 1975. Since 1977, FDA has inspected foreign toxicological laboratories and other facilities involved in the pre-NDA approval testing of new drugs. To assure compliance with the Good Laboratory Practices, or GLP, requirements. You can find more information at the FDA's website. FDA foreign observations. These are but a few of the representative examples of foreign inspectional observations identified in BIMO for 2019 throughout the world. There are many others wherein non-compliance to the investigational plan was cited, as well as a host of other issues. This leads us into a discussion regarding some current updates that have taken place throughout the world in the GXP arena with an international focus. Let us start with China. China FDA updates. Per the proposal, the CFDA is to be merged with its State Administration for Industry and Commerce Administration, SAIC, and its inspection agency, the State Administration for Quality, Safety, Inspection, and Quarantine, AQSIQ, to become a new agency, the National Regulatory and Management Commission. This will prompt the creation of the China Drug Administration, or CDA, splitting its food regulatory function to other agencies. Given the special characteristics of drug products regulatory work, the China Drug Administration is split from food, but under the National Market Regulatory and Management Administration, noted the announcement. All official English names of the new bodies have yet to be confirmed. Drugs will be regulated at the provincial and state level, and drug sales and commercial activities will be administered by municipal and county level regulatory authorities, it added. This is courtesy of the Pink Sheet, Global Policy and Regulatory Coverage from Brian Yang, 2019. China proposes major changes to the pharmaceutical regulations. The government intends to introduce structural changes to the DAL, the Drug Administration Law, in order to incentivize innovation and reinforce post-approval compliance obligations. 1. States the principle that pharmaceutical innovation should be based on clinical value. New drug research and development should focus on therapeutic mechanisms, address multiple targets, or involve interventions that systemically affect biological functions. 2. The MAH, market authorization holders, system will be implemented equally for domestic and imported drugs, subject to approval by the NMPA, National Medical Products Administration. MAH's market authorization holders will be allowed to transfer their market authorizations. MAH's market authorization holders and retail pharmacies will be able to establish an online presence on third-party portals registered with local drug administrations. Online sales continue to be restricted. The China profile now includes the following new laws and regulations. Amendments to Drug Administration Law of China, which took effect December 1, 2019. The Vaccine Management Act, which took effect December 1, 2019, and related implementing regulations. The Management of Human Genetic Resource Regulations, which took effect July 1, 2019, and related implementing regulations. For additional details regarding these laws, see the scope of assessment, safety reporting, and definition of sponsor sections, and the investigational products topic. Our next topic is on pre-market requirements for medical device cybersecurity, Canada. This guidance document was adopted 17 June 2019 and became effective 26 June 2019. It applies to products that consist of or contain software and or are regulated as a medical device, Class 1 to Class 4 under the Medical Devices Regulations. This includes both in vitro diagnostics and non-in vitro diagnostics devices. Policy objectives. Health Canada considers the inclusion of cybersecurity risk control measures an important consideration in issuing medical device licenses. Therefore, this guidance document provides medical device manufacturers advice on the practices, response, and mitigation measures that can improve the cybersecurity of their device. Policy statements. As part of the evidence to demonstrate the safety and effectiveness of a Class 3 or 4 medical device, manufacturers should submit the additional information outlined in this guidance document with their application. Risk management is required for all medical devices throughout their life cycle, as cybersecurity risk control measures should be successfully verified and validated against the device's design, requirements, and/or design specifications. Let us not forget that medical cybersecurity is a shared responsibility between the manufacturer, regulator, user, and healthcare provider. Manufacturers are responsible for monitoring, assessing, and mitigating potential cybersecurity risks throughout the life cycle of their product. Sound risk management principles, as described in ISO 14971-07-2007, medical devices. Application of risk management should be incorporated throughout the life cycle of a medical device. Health Canada recommends manufacturers extend these risk management principles to cybersecurity with additional considerations. Generally, a manufacturer should identify cybersecurity hazard, estimate and evaluate the associated risks, control those risks to an acceptable level, monitor the effectiveness of the risk controls. Health Canada recommends that device-specific cybersecurity risk management processes be conducted in parallel to the safety risk management processes described in ISO 14971. So in this guidance document adopted 17 June 2019 and effective 26 June 2019, Health Canada recommendations, the following standards are identified to assist manufacturers conduct their cybersecurity risk management processes in parallel and potentially iteratively with their currently established risk management processes. Here they are listed on the screen for you, and there are several of them listed here. Our next topic is on German Health Authority updates, where recommendations regarding clinical trials with medicinal products where sponsor or legal representatives are established in the United Kingdom, 18 February 2019. The sponsor or his legal representative must be located in a member state of the European Union or in another state party to the agreement on the European Economic Area. The legal basis for this is laid down in Section 40, subsection 1, sentence 3, number 1 of the German Medicinal Products Act. It will become necessary to ensure that these establish a registered office in the EU or EEA according to a recent database research from January 2019. There are within the German Health Authority responsibility approximately 1,300 clinical trials, the sponsor or legal representatives of which is currently still located in the United Kingdom. In the case of the so-called hard Brexit, i.e. without adoption of an agreement on the withdrawal of the United Kingdom from the EU. You can find more information about this online at the German Health Authority website. So this is another topic that has recently come up in SQA, and it is an issue wherein German health authorities are issuing observations to sites for signing the Form FDA 1572. German GCP inspectors have published an opinion on the use of the Form 1572 regarding that. There was recently a communication published in SQA, the Clinical Specialty Section, post-translation on 3 February 2020, wherein U.S. regulatory requirements are not valid in Europe. Per 21 CFR 312.120, sponsors may include non-U.S. sites as non-IND sites. Then the FDA 1572 does not need to be signed by non-U.S. sites. So that's the workaround, having non-U.S. sites having to deal with signing an FDA Form 1572. The U.S. requirement for conducting clinical trials are fulfilled if the clinical trial is performed in accordance with internationally recognized ethical and quality standards, which are obligatory per EU regulatory framework. According to the opinion of the German GCP inspectors, signing the FDA 1572 by a clinical investigator is not acceptable, as the sponsor is assured that the trial is conducted in accordance to U.S. legal requirements, which are in conflict with several items of the national or European laws that the investigator must follow. Therefore, German investigator sites should preferably participate as a non-IND site in clinical trials. However, if the sponsor has decided to be involved or to have the investigator involved sites in Germany under IND, then the investigator agreements or contracts must explicitly emphasize that EU and national law takes strict precedence over U.S. regulations. In this case, the sponsor is expected to perform a comparative analysis to determine discrepancies between the legal requirements in Germany and Europe and those in the U.S., and to specify how compliance with the EU national legal requirements that are given precedence is ensured. If the FDA has granted a waiver based on the sponsor request, it must be verified if this covers all CFR requirements that are not aligned with the German European requirements. Example, IRB requirements, safety reporting, data protection, archiving, etc. The investigator sites must be informed by the sponsor about the CFR requirements, specifically about those which conflict with national European requirements or go beyond those. The sponsor's comparative analysis and, if applicable, the waiver granted by FDA are to be attached to the FDA 1572 in a permanent manner and together with the information of the sponsor to be included in the trial master file and the investigator, sponsor and investigator. These documents are to be presented to the inspectors on request. Finding a signed FDA 1572 without the aforementioned documents represents a major deficiency for which the sponsor is responsible. The deficiency for which the investigator is responsible should be graded under consideration of the circumstances noted during the inspection. Are you having an issue with an investigator in Germany that doesn't want to sign the Form FDA 1572? We'll reference one of these EU competent authorities' regulatory requirements for clarification and guidance. Let us turn our attention to a Health Canada update, wherein Health Canada announced a public meeting hosted by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration entitled ICH Global Meeting on ICH E8R1 Guideline on General Considerations for Clinical Trials, 31 October 2019 at Silver Spring, Maryland, at the FDA. Topics included the release of ICH E6R2, Good Clinical Practice. Health Canada announces the implementation of the International Council for Harmonization of Technical Requirements of Pharmaceuticals for Human Use, Guidance E6R2, Good Clinical Practice Notice. Mandatory use of electronic common technical document format. The release of ICH E17, Multi-Regional Clinical Trials. And the regulatory enrollment process, pilot for clinical trials. So let's discuss an update on Brexit. The United Kingdom and the European Union have reached an agreement at European Council on the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland's withdrawal from the European Union. The revised withdrawal agreement and political declaration were considered and agreed at European Council on 17 October 2019. The new withdrawal agreement sets out the terms of the UK's exit from the European Union and European Atomic Energy Community, with changes to Northern Ireland's protocol to remove the so-called backstop and replace it with arrangements that meet the government's objectives. The new political declaration sets out the framework for the future relationship between the European Union and the United Kingdom and reflects the government's ambition to conclude an ambitious, broad, and deep and flexible partnership across trade and economic cooperation with the EU, with a free trade agreement with the EU at its core, alongside agreements on security and other various areas of cooperation. The declaration by Her Majesty's Government of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland relates to the operation of the democratic consent in Northern Ireland, provision of the Protocol on Ireland, Northern Ireland. These documents were laid in Parliament on 19 October ahead of the vote in House of Commons on the deal and consideration in the House of the Lords. A statement that political agreement has been reached was also laid in Parliament on 19 October. It's worth mentioning that the EMA moved its headquarters from the UK to the Netherlands in 2019 and in the process lost a significant portion of its workforce and has published details about what the priorities are until they can add staff. January 2019, MHRA and the Department of Health and Social Care published further guidance on how medicines, medical devices, clinical trials will be regulated if the UK leaves the EU without a deal. If a no-deal Brexit, reference medicinal products RMP for new generic medicines or other abridged marketing authorization applications submitted after exit day will be required to comply with relevant legislation. This legislation is the Human Medicines Regulation 2012, as amended by the Human Medicines Exit Regulations 2019, in particular Regulations 48 and 51 to 55. For more information, see this guidance. This guidance describes the aspects of the EU guidance on good pharmacovigilance practice that will no longer apply to the MHRA and UK market authorization holders, or are to be read subject to modification in a no-deal Brexit. In 2019, several guidance were released in case of a no-deal for Brexit. These were withdrawn in Q1 2020, however. So in summary, we've covered FDA foreign inspections overview. We've covered an FDA foreign observations overview. We've covered China FDA updates. We've covered Canada pre-market requirements for medical device cybersecurity updates, German Health Authority updates, and we've covered Health Canada updates and MHRA updates. Hope you've enjoyed the presentation, and we look forward to the next opportunity to present to you. Here are some of the references we used for the presentation. Additional references. So your feedback is very welcomed and valuable. We would like for you to take this opportunity to complete this survey and also to click on the hyperlink here for a certificate of completion. Thank you. To learn more about FDA QRC, thank you.